Kia ora everyone, Sarah here with some progress on my Angelica Schuyler cosplay for Armageddon's All Stars. I'm glad to say that this time I have some actual progress to show aside from my plans update from last month. I've completely finished my shift and I've finished about 99% of my stays. So beginning with the shift, because that was the very first thing I made, I did a bit of research into how 18th century shifts are constructed and then took that on board and how to make mine because I wanted to make it in a historical way. I wanted to try drafting the pattern myself in the historical way because it really interested me. Shifts are generally a collection of rectangles and triangles, and they're made in a way that really minimizes the fabric wastage, which is really cool to be able to give something a go that's, essentially a zero waste costuming. I decided to take the safe route with drafting the shift and made a calico mock-up first, just to be sure of all my measurements because I hadn't drafted this kind of pattern before. So I'm really glad I did as well because there were a couple of things that I figured out through the toile or through the mock-up that I really am glad I found out in this and not the linen. For example, this here, the shoulder pieces that go just up here, they were way too narrow, so I had to make them bigger on the other one because they would just slip off my shoulders endlessly and be continuously annoying forever. The other thing I changed with this was that I made these sleeves, which are just rectangles essentially with these gussets here. I made this rectangle wider and the gusset slightly bigger as well because this was quite tight, not super tight, but quite tight around my upper arm here. The only thing that did change for my proper shift was that the wrists are quite wide, but I think that's all right once the sleeves will be fitted. So this here is my final shift and in all its unironed linen glory, but I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of fun to sew. I ended up pretty much 50-50 hand sewing it and machine sewing it. I decided to do all my seams by machine because I did flat felled seams to have a strong structure, because it's a base garment, it needs to hold up to a lot of wear and tear. So I did flat felled seams and I don't have the patience to hand sew flat felled seams. I love hand sewing, but I don't have that much patience. I ended up hand sewing the hems here, these little rolled hems, and the casing here for the drawstring, which I really did enjoy. I really like hand sewing, but not too much of it, that's the key. So the other thing that I've finished this month is my stays, and I'm incredibly happy with how these have turned out. I talked a little bit about this in my last update about how for my stays I'm taking inspiration from the ensemble costumes in Hamilton, since all the women wear what is essentially stays. I chose to be a little bit risky with this one and go straight into my fabric rather than doing a mock-up first. This is because I've made this pattern quite a few times now and I feel very comfortable with it, and the adaptations I was making I felt pretty confident in being able to do without a mock-up. So for example, this pattern is originally front and back lacing and I just had to cut on the fold for the front pieces, and I also lengthened the waist because the last time I made this pattern it ended up way too short-waisted for me and it wasn't super comfortable. There are a couple things in these that I chose to go a bit more theatrical with rather than historical, like these metal eyelets here. I chose to do metal eyelets instead of hand-stitched ones historically because I personally prefer these metal eyelets. I used the old cable tie trick for this, so all the boning in this is heavy duty cable ties, and the boning construction in the front, this angle inwards, it makes me so happy. There's something in my brain that just loves how this looks, and being able to center the pattern here. I'm very, very proud of these stays. I'm really happy, and they are so comfortable to wear as well, which was a huge improvement from the last pair I made. Like I say, they're a bit short-waisted, so they sat more at my ribs rather than at my waist. These ones sit at my waist and it is 1,000 times more comfortable to wear, so I'm very proud of it. I really, really like how these turned out, so much that I'm actually considering not putting the extra embellishment on from the ensemble costumes because, like I say, I love how this looks down the front. I think that's a gorgeous detail on its own. So yeah, but that's the decision to come, so we'll see. So here we are. This is what they ended up looking like. It's always a little bit sad really that these undergarments aren't actually going to be seen on the outside at all, where I'm very, very proud of it all. So I'm very glad to be able to kind of show it off here in a lot of ways. I'm really, really proud of the sewing that I've done. Stays are a really interesting thing for me to be able to judge my skill by because I made stays for my second ever cosplay. They weren't very good by any means, but it's just quite big for me to be able to see the improvement that I've made with these and how comfortable they are and how cool they look to me and how happy I am with them. I even made these in time to be able to wear them to a Shakespeare festival here in Tauranga, which was a lot of fun because I was watching a lot of Shakespeare plays online while I was making this stuff. Okay, so new plans. Next month I'm going to Australia for a little while, so I want to take a kind of travel size project with me to be able to hand sew. So the plan for that is to do some 18th century pockets with some kind of embroidery design. I'd really like to find a design that is related to Hamilton in some way, like even if it's some lyrics or a design motif from the set or some of the costumes or anything like that. I'm going to give that a go. I actually have a rule for myself that in all of my cosplays there has to be pockets somewhere in it. There has to be a pocket. I struggled a bit with my recent Hiccup cosplay because that was very difficult to put a pocket in, but there are pockets somewhere. The other goal for this month is these skirt supports. So I really want to get the silhouette right for this project, and because it's so gorgeous and it's such a striking silhouette, I've now got my stays which will give me the bodice shape, but I also need the skirt support to give me the right hip shape and the right flare outwards for the skirts. There are a couple different shapes of skirt supports or bum pads for 18th century skirts, and they give different shapes. So I'm going to do a couple trials with one of the petticoats that I already have and see how they fit over that shape and what that will give me in the long run. And that is all for this check-in. See you next time. Ka kite.